So it's the week after the week before where basically the entire world should now know about aliens being real and UFOs not being a joke. How do you feel, James? Do you feel different inside?
Yeah, I think shit just got real.
It did. Cue the theme tune. Hello and welcome to episode 11 of ParaNormality. As always, I'm Harry. I'm here with James. How we doing, buddy?
All right, mate. What's going on?
I'm in a very weird place at the moment where I can't quite believe the world doesn't care about what we're about to talk about. Because we need to be real for a second. We're going to talk about David Grusch again because obviously, as of us recording, he released the interview claiming lots and lots of things. Military personnel have been killed by paranormal or malevolent events. People within governments have potentially murdered military personnel. The US government and the Vatican have hidden existence of extraterrestrial life for, well, almost close to 100 years. And today on the front page, that's not mentioned anywhere. What is mentioned is arguing politicians and mortgage prices going up. So,
great.
Yeah, I can't believe that literally everyone in the world isn't shouting at the hilltop about this. But we're gonna obviously talk about it. But James, you know what I have to do first?
Best bit. So, if you like this podcast, or even if you don't, because we got our first bit of hate mail over the weekend. If you don't like this podcast, then be sure to send it to a friend and show them why you don't like it either. Funnily enough, the person who sent the hate mail in is a spiteful little person on Twitter who actually found my personal Twitter account, didn't like something I said about Boris Johnson, searched through my Twitter, found the podcast Twitter account, went onto our link tree, went onto our question submission section, and then submitted a very, very nasty comment about me being an incel, even though I've got 2 kids and I was a bit of a slut when I was a teenager. So don't know how that works out really, but there we go. So if you do want to ask us a question... If you're listening to this random stranger, it's still a listen.
It is.
It's still
exactly.
You are nothing but a number to us.
Yeah. You are all but numbers. Thank you. Thank you very much for giving us another download. And also, really cool way to segment into saying that you can ask us questions. If you go onto our link tree, it does have all our social media on there. So you can find us on Twitter. It's PodNormality, our Facebook page, our TikTok. Obviously, our YouTube content is there as well. But there is a section where you can ask us a question, and I completely forgot it existed. So if there's anything that you want us to talk about in the future, be sure to submit it through the link tree. That's linktr.ee/paranormality podcast. And I'm going to pass it over to you, James.
Hey, brother.
It's been a bit of a monumentous sort of couple of days or weeks, possibly maybe 2 weeks within the UAP scene. And obviously, you're very new to it. This is something where I've sort of dragged you in kicking and screaming. If I had asked you, a year ago, do you know who Mick West is? You wouldn't know who that was, other than possibly if you read the credits on the back of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. You wouldn't know who those people are. You wouldn't know who David Grusch was. Exactly. That's where we're at. So before we sort of jump in with some of the revelations that have come out from the interview, I'm going to do something that I don't often do, and I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes on this show. And I'm going to pass it over to James, because I would love to know where you're at the moment, because going into this, you aren't openly believing in the stuff, but you weren't dismissive, but you were very skeptical about some of the claims we were making. And obviously I hit you straight away with the Nimitz. That's a big thing to straight away whack you into. But even going into each episode, you are still a skeptical person. The 29 Palms that came out immediately, the first thing that you were thinking was, there's red flags everywhere all over this. There's obviously been the Las Vegas alien that got us viral through our tweet.
Damn right.
And got us a lot of followers and listeners. But obviously the first thing you said to me was this looks absolute
bullshit.
bollocks.
Sorry, I'm
basically.
talking a lot today.
And it's turned out that it basically is. So you do still have that like skeptical mind on, but I'd love to pass over to you now and talk us through maybe where you were on this sort of stuff a year ago, what this show has sort of done in terms of your beliefs or your non-beliefs, and then where you think the sort of like the UAP coverage, where that might go in the future. I'd love for you to sort of explain to me and the audience where you're at the moment.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm James. So when I first started this, I was like I said, I wasn't exactly completely closed off to the idea, but I was just informed by what the media showed me, not any of this, what you sent me, what I've researched myself and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it was very much Billy Bobs and all those people that we love to talk about that get advertised. It was those satirical pieces that you get in magazines and all this sort of thing. So I never took it very seriously. I was very much in the firm belief as a person who believes in science over most things, that the universe is way too big for us to be alone. I always thought that, but I never was truly in the thought of that they're here. They are present. It's just we're not alone, but they're also not, house sharing with us. Put in a different sense. And then you showed me the Nimitz one, and then started to introduce me to all this terminology and what to look for and what to understand. And then my eyes started to open a bit more, and I started to get a bit more scared. And that's generally been the overall theme, apart from a few episodes. If you know what you're looking for, but if you look through the bull stuff that the media show through to the real true stories that are kind of hidden, I think I'm more of a believer now than I was. I think I'm definitely more of a firm believer of that they haven't come here and they've already been here and they are already here rather than visiting, as in they're already part of our world. This new David, I keep mispronouncing his name. So if you are listening, David, I'm so sorry. Grusch. I think he is huge and probably the most important man in the UAP community as of now. Sorry, Corbell. And as it stands, I'm quite a cynical person as it stands. I think we're lied to and, manipulated by government and media constantly. And it's hard to see through that, but it's definitely turning more from cynicism to belief the more these episodes go on.
Well, there we go.
And I feel like we talk about the satirical side of stuff. So I sent you that picture, obviously, of if it was the Daily Mail, like UFO spotted in a boring country, and it still has that air of like Hello Magazine. But I feel like after this, it's going to start hopefully being taken a bit more seriously.
When you sent me that article, and it was about the Belgian UFO wave.
Belgium, yes, thank you. Yeah.
The UFO wave of Belgium is an episode I'm planning at the moment, and it's incredible. It was a spate of UFO sightings that lasted years, all in a very isolated area in Belgium. And Belgium's boring. All they make is chocolate and waffles. No. So let's talk about that. And one of my frustrations and annoyances about the UAP scene is it only seems to get picked up by trash media outlets, Fox News, Daily Mail, the Daily Star, the Express. And I feel like the fact that we haven't seen anything, it's been over 12 hours now since the revelations came out that we're going to discuss shortly, and it is nowhere to be seen on anything other than Daily Mail, The Sun, Fox News. And that's frustrating because it also garners a certain crowd of people that there's a big crossover between people who believe in UAPs and people who watch Fox News. And look, I'm not here to make a political show. That's not what I'm about. But there are certain peoples within those communities who aren't nice. They're aggressive. They're loud. They think the world is against them, and they lash out on social media. And I've had that. I've got experience of that just this week with that hate mail that we got through the show. And it's frustrating that there isn't more of I hate saying mainstream media, that there isn't more of a mainstream focus on this, because it from what we're going to talk about in a minute, I'll be honest, it's pretty terrifying stuff. Like, I know that we joke like, oh, you get scared all the time.
like I've written the script out. I'm sure you've gone through it and like skimmed through it. There's some like heavy stuff in this.
Really heavy. And whether it's true or not, it's world changing. Like if it's a world changing statement, it's whether it's true. I mean, it seems to be the media or vastly gone for it's false, it's lies. But whether it's not, it's a huge thing that this guy's saying. Like,
well, I want to read something very quickly, and it's from a chap called Eric Weinstein, and he's involved within the UAP scene. He's very much someone who's skeptical of claims that are made, but still wants there to be like a scientific approach to everything. A bit like Michio Kaku as well, who I love Michio Kaku. I'm into my physics, and he is someone who sort of pushes the boundaries on within the world of physics. And Eric Weinstein is someone with a scientific background who is looking to get stuff sort of peer reviewed and looking to get stuff laser focused with a scientific mindset. And he's tweeted out this, and I think it's really good. I have no direct evidence that this is real, and he's quote retweeting the full interview. But what you are hearing has oddly spread quite far within the defense and intelligence sectors. You pick it up from multiple high-level informants. Assume it's all BS, then that BS is absolutely compromising our security. Try it the other way around. Assume that it's not BS. Then this stigma and insane stovepipe security strategy of keeping this away from our own scientists is totally also compromising security. If you look at it from both ways, we have a security problem. The answer is to investigate the claims either way. We either have a paranormal cult running around nuclear strategy, or we have something unprecedented kept away from our own scientists. You don't need to know which is true, but this needs to be cleaned up. So even if this stuff isn't true, even if all of this is a big psyop and it's a big government scheme to throw us off something else, even though we've got sightings that go back literally tens of thousands of years, even if that's what this is now, then either way, something needs to be investigated. We need to find out if this is true or if this isn't true. And I think that leads us quite well into sort of like the first part of the show that we're going to discuss, because segment one that I've written here is literally called non-human intelligence, NHI.
No abbreviation for me.
So Grusch suggests that NHI, we all love an abbreviation, suggests that NHI could either be alien or interdimensional in nature, or perhaps a combination of both. My belief is that they are here, but that they probably exist on a separate plane to us. So where Grusch described it really well, that if you imagine that we live in 3 physical dimensions and a 4th dimension of time, if you go to a 5th level of existence, 4th dimension of time is a physical, manipulatable construct. And you could then as if we walk forward through an x-axis, you could walk forward and backwards through the time axis. He makes reports of football-sized field craft sightings and recovery of multiple operational craft, and also technological capabilities that we're just not able to replicate. It remains uncertain if these sightings are connected to the recently disclosed 30-foot diameter craft with a football field-sized interior. So think of the TARDIS. Something came out in the Daily Mail just last week. On the outside, the craft was 30 feet. They walked inside, and it was the size of a football field. And the people outside experienced about 5 minutes of time. And when the people inside the craft came out, they had experienced 4 hours of time. So if that's true, which is a bit woo and it's a bit spooky. It's a bit Doctor Who, obviously. But if that's true, then there's sort of time dilation that we need to look into, and obviously space and time manipulation.
Yeah. Things
that Bob Lazar has spoken about. So yeah, the possibility of advanced technology such as that, we've got people like Weinstein, we've got people like Grusch, like Coulthard, like Lou Elizondo, who are saying, look, even if this isn't true, we need to find out if it is. As we've discussed previously on the show, Grusch has alleged that there is a direct link between UAP activity and nuclear weapons. Lou Elizondo has in the past sort of made quite obvious remarks about the fact that they've tempted UAP to them. They've sort of they've done a few nuclear tests in an area that could be considered a hotbed of activity. And then when they've done these specific things, there have been UAP incursions. I think the worrying thing, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, is that that's potentially causing issues. But this is a bit that stood out for me. Grusch claims that there is at least 12 craft that have been recovered by the US, though other sources suggest there may be even more. I don't know if you remember the Bob Lazar episode. He said he walked through a hangar and there was 12 craft. That instantly stuck out to me. So, and here's where, and we'll talk about it a little bit later again, there's something else that we'll talk about. Is he being fed easily disprovable information to say, well, he thinks the same thing as Bob Lazar, or is this true? Like, there's so much to work out and unfold here. It's a 90-year
cover up, isn't it? Yeah.
Is he being fed incorrect information, or is the information that Bob came out with 30 years ago, is that actually correct? And it's just Bob's the madman, so let's not believe him. So that is something that stood out to me, is that 12 craft that have allegedly been recovered. I did put, I don't know if you saw it, James, I put a poll up on Twitter, and it was 4 answers to a question. It was, how do you think that these recovered craft have been found? It was crashed, shot down, archaeological digs, or landed. And personally, I think crashed and archaeological digs are the 2 most likely. What about yourself?
Definitely archaeological. Landed seems to, like, not planned. Definitely not landed. I think I'm with you. Like, crashed, if they're exploring, whatever, or shot down even. I'd say, shot down, crashed, or archaeological, just not landed.
One of the arguments that people have said is, well, if these aliens are so intelligent that they've travelled all the way across the galaxy or the universe to come here and see us, why are they bloody crashing their stuff? And to that, I would say, the Japanese space agency sent a rocket to the moon just last month, and it smashed into the face of the moon because they got some calculations wrong. So we're smart enough to send stuff to the moon, but we're dumb enough to crash the stuff as well. We're smart enough to make cars, we're dumb enough to crash them all the time.
Also, I was like, they flew this way to see us. Why do you think they've come to see us?
Yeah.
Do you know, it could just be like, we need to pit stop here, love. Like, there's a Wendy's I want to visit or something. Like, it can't...
Those hairless monkeys have split the atom. We need to go and check out what they're doing.
Yeah, or literally just like, we're going to Mercury. Let's stop off at Earth first. Like,
or like we've both alluded to, they're already here.
Oh, they're already here.
And the noisy chimps upstairs are shooting each other all the time, and they want to see what's going on. So they send a few probes up, and a few of them get into accidents.
Yeah, they dropped some metal on my car again. We'll see what they're doing. Like, it could just be pure, like, like I say, we are just monkeys to them. So
and this argument of, well, they must be really stupid if they're crashing stuff. We crash stuff all the time, and we're supposed to be intelligent.
Every day.
I reversed into a wall literally 2 months ago. Just like, there's a wall there. My reverse sensors were going off, and I just carried on going. Like,
I'm close enough. But it's weird that the wall got back up and walked away, but
I know, weird. So that argument of well, how could they have crashed? Because like accidents happen, and they just might have crashed, because there's quite a lot, really. Moving on from that, Grusch has claimed that bodies of NHI occupants have been recovered, indicating the presence of intelligent beings associated with these craft. So that's where, for me, I sort of start to veer off of it a little bit, because I personally don't think that there's stuff inside them. But then if this report about the 30-foot craft with a football field inside is true, then these little tiny orbs could be dilating space and time. So there could physically be stuff in there, and they don't experience time the same way as we do. And this is why this needs to be investigated, because then are they manipulating space and time to an extent that we could then do it? Well, that's what Grusch is saying is trying to happen. So, I don't know. It's a weird one for me. Do you think that there's little dudes flying about in these?
No,
personally, James?
There'll be drones, or like, I think they're more reconnaissance than anything. Like, if we can have drones and we're hairless monkeys, these guys can like have the ability to have crafts, and they might even just be like portable doorways. Like, just
it could even. I've not even thought of that. And so the things crash, and there's just something trying to walk through the door at the same time. And if they are interdimensional, then time isn't linear for that. It opens up lots of strange things.
Yeah, and this is just based on our excruciatingly limited knowledge. like of
on our very small knowledge.
very small.
I've spoken about it before. We can only physically see 4% of the universe. Dark energy and dark matter make up 96% of everything. So if there's a species or a civilization that know what that stuff is, the stuff that they do, we physically can't see it anyway, because we have no spatial awareness of 96% of the entire universe. Then we're just here. We are just hairless chimps, just floating on a rock, hurtling through a vacuum, orbiting a giant ball of gas, and we're one of 100 trillion balls of gas.
An infinite number of
So
personally, we're just a world of jam under a fingernail. That's all we are.
It's the scene from Men in Black when it zooms out and they're playing marbles with the universe.
How good is that? Sorry, now I do this, it's so good.
But that's where I sort of started to turn off a bit, because I don't personally think that there's occupants in these craft, but then I don't know. Like, there's been so many stories of occupants in craft that I can't just dismiss it just because I don't believe that, when I've got literally a whistleblower here telling me this is what's happened. Now, the only thing is that Grusch has implied, and here's another bit that sort of turned me away, Grusch has implied that the US government may have established formal relationships or agreements with a non-human intelligence. And I don't mean that they've shaken hands with an alien. What he's talking about is that he's talking about the fact that vehicles may have landed and we have been able to take them. So it hasn't been a case where something's crashed. It's been a case where something has been left. And then these UAP retrieval programs have gone and taken that craft, and there haven't been retrievals that have come back. Before we sort of jump into some more of the information, does it sort of start to lose you a bit there?
I honestly no, because I know as much about that bit as the UAP bit and all the craft bit. So for me, it's at that level of slightly cynical, but this, like you said, this needs to be investigated because it comes from a reliable source, a good witness, and all this. Plus, you just don't know. I'm up for being open-minded about this.
There's also been a little bit of misinformation that's come out. The news media have been saying that the law firm that represented him have dropped him, and that they didn't like the fact that they were overrepresented in the claims that were being made. That's already been proven to have been a lie today, because it's the Attorney General of Intelligence that is backing these claims up. So Grusch has gone to him saying there is proof that there is government-established relationships with non-human intelligence. He's given him the evidence, and he's backed up those claims to say that these are credible and urgent. So what do I know? We've got the Attorney General of Defense in America saying okay, yeah, we need to actively look into this. Mm-hmm. They're not saying they believe it, but they're saying that the information that you've given to us and
I don't think they're gonna either.
No. But again, this isn't what we need to remember. This isn't just David Grusch spinning a yarn. He's risking imprisonment for this because he's gone under oath. He's gone under oath to tell Congress about these things, got witnesses, got documentation to prove it. He spent 4 years researching this before passing the memo over. There's a lot that's gone into it, but some of it, just for me, feels almost planted information to discredit. And that's my issue with a lot of this.
Yeah.
Is I truly believe that he believes this. We've spoken about it before. I believe he believes this. I believe Bob Lazar believes what he's saying. And I think that a bit of a problem we have here is that known hoaxes could have been fed to him to say, ignore this over here because look at this that he said here. That's a bit of a worry for me. But again, exactly like you, I'm not a US intelligence chief. just a hairless chimp
that we know of.
Yeah, I could be. Ooh.
Oh, right.
We could be an undercover psyop. So yeah, it's unclear if Grusch is making those claims himself or if he's drawing conclusions from other people giving him information and him filling the gaps. I feel like that possibly could be more realistic, that lots of people have told him inflating information, and he's sort of like put it together. He's put the puzzles together, possibly himself.
It could go back to, we said before, like, you see it because you believe it. Like, he's been given all this information, those documents, and all of his fingers are pointing because he wants to believe it to, UAPs and stuff. And, you don't know what he's read.
To the point where he believes it so much that he's willing to go to jail for it. Like, that's heavy. We spoke about that. We wouldn't do that.
No, God, no.
No.
I ain't got an Xbox in prison.
So we're gonna move on to. It's hard to explain it because this next segment is more about the fact that this isn't just America. Like, we only ever hear really UFO stories coming out of America, but there are UK programs that have since closed down. There are Australian programs. France is quite open about it, and Italy is very open about its UAP secrecy stuff. So this section is sort of like the controversial actions and the disinformation campaigns that have happened that Grusch has spoken about. So allegations of lies and omissions have been levelled against none other than Dr. Kirkpatrick, the head of Arrow, which is very interesting because we spoke about that last week. Where what did you say, James? I said they're not doing their job, and you said
yes, they are. They're doing exactly what they're intended to do.
Yes, they are indeed. So Grusch has said that he's given all this information to various people, and during his time at the UAP task force, he worked alongside people and worked with Kirkpatrick. Kirkpatrick has his number. He's got all his contact details, and at no point when he was going through Congress making these claims did Arrow make any attempt to contact, like they've said they've been doing. They've said that we welcome whistleblowers and we welcome people coming forward, and we'll find out what you have to say. At no point did Kirkpatrick make any attempt to come forward to find out what's going on. So
that's your
what
job,
he's suggesting. He's suggesting basically that Arrow just aren't doing their jobs, and they're misleading Congress because he's coming out saying that we've had no evidence of this. We don't know what these people are talking about. We've got no direct corroboration. And Grusch is saying, yes, you do. And here it is. Why won't you do anything about it? Now, Grusch has made further claims. Again, you can look into this however you want. Grusch has made claims that the US government has resorted to killing individuals to suppress the truth around non-human intelligence. There was a story that just again came out a few days ago in the Daily Mail that said that two former Marines were actually held at gunpoint when they spotted a pyramid-shaped craft in, I think it was Singapore or Malaysia. It was subcontinental Asia, and they were out there on their jollies, just doing their job. They came across this craft, and US military held them at gunpoint and made threats of their life. And they've come out after 14 years to make a complaint. After Grusch has come out and said these two have come out and said, this is what happened to us. I believe it was Malaysia. So that there is, again, corroboration from different sources that something may have happened in terms of threats against people's lives. Obviously, Grusch has come forward with a complaint to say that he felt that he was threatened in his work and that he was basically derided for coming forward with this stuff. Now, the implication is that powerful forces are determined to keep this information hidden at all costs. And additionally, Grusch has exposed that basically there's a large UFO disinformation campaign that is orchestrated by the US government, designed to confuse the public with a mixture of true and false information. Basically, the key to this is Roswell. We've spoken about it before. That is the main one. Before we sort of like jump into it, what do you know of Roswell, James, from the bits that I've told you?
It was a bad TV show from the mid-2000s. It's literally one of Roswell. As an aircraft crash, late 40s, I think, just after World War II? Like 47? It's literally my script.
47,
in 1947. And it's this biggest story in regards to the UFO phenomenon. That's literally all it's, whether it's a huge, like, pay attention to Roswell, well, there's other stuff going on. I'm not sure.
So Roswell was, late 1947, a cylindrical disc. That's what the government described it as on the day it was shot down, crashed. A cylindrical metallic rubbery disc fell out of the sky in Roswell, Nevada. The entire town saw it. There was a massive military intervention there. The next day on the front pages was flying disc crashes in Nevada, all over the news. The next day it comes out to say weather balloon shot down in Nevada. And the next day it comes out to say that a hot air balloon with crash test dummies was shot down accidentally. And then it changed to crash test dummies in a blimp. And then it changed to an aircraft was shot down. And then it changed to a small airship, like a Hindenburg blimp sort of thing, crashed. And it changed and changed. And there was so much information thrown out so quickly to sort of like throw everyone off the scent, so that nobody focused on the fact that on the day it happened, the government admitted that a metallic disc that was shiny to look at but rubbery to the touch crashed in Roswell, Nevada, and that the entire town saw it and extracted non-human intelligent aliens, that potentially one of them was alive. That information was then muddied with all of the nonsense that came with it. And what Grusch is saying is he couldn't confirm, because he has national security clearances and you can't just steal documents and hide them in your shower at your golf resort and hope to get away with it. You can't do that. So he said he couldn't comment, but he says that Roswell very much is, it happened, and the subsequent changes within the media and the US government were a method conducted and sort of tested to see how they could conceal the truth from the masses with a disinformation program, very similar to what we see today. So much news thrown at your face that you can't focus on one thing. Now, he says that an ongoing broad UFO disinformation campaign is being perpetrated by the US government, and as part of this campaign, Grusch claims that some true or factual intel has been presented, so the Navy videos, for instance, or Grusch coming forward as a whistleblower, or the fact that there was a UAP task force, and the fact that we had the NASA hearings. So there is like truth coming out very slowly, drip fed, but that's then overloaded with complete disinformation to muddy the waters so that no one knows what's going on. We see that literally every day in the media. So that's nothing groundbreaking, but it's still a US intelligence officer saying that this is a technique that happens.
Why cover up else, right? Like,
exactly.
That's always what I think. So why are you covering stuff up if there's not some form of stuff you don't want us to know?
Exactly.
I always think that.
So Grusch's revelations regarding this sort of touch on the fact that there's also private enterprises that are involved in this. So Lockheed Martin Skunk Works is a name that you will hear all the time, but there's plenty. I don't know if you've seen what the war machine is like in America. I want to give you an idea of like how ruthless the military industrial complex is. So, you know, AMF, the bowling people that make bowling lanes, they produce nuclear bunkers, and they also produce the mechanism for launching nuclear missiles. That's AMF bowling. They don't make bowling pins anymore. Their main focus is nuclear bunkers and machinery and electronic systems for nuclear launch devices. You know the like bell jars you get, the glass.
Words that come out your mouth.
Yeah, you know the bell jars that you get, those glass, really like ornate jars.
Yeah.
There's a company that used to make them called, I think they're called Ball, I think they're called, or Hall. And that company sponsors a baseball stadium in America. And in like the 60s, they realized that business of making masonry jars wasn't profitable. So what they actually now do is they make the containers for ammunition. That's a company that used to make like glass jars. What are the little robotic hoovers called? Are they Roombas?
Yeah, Roombas, yeah.
Yeah, their main focus now is landmine detection. Yeah.
So always companies started off with something quite innocent for civilians,
and they partnered with
where's the money?
They partnered with John Deere, you know, the company that make tractors. So John Deere and Roomba combined to make giant self-driving minefield detonation robots. So when you think of the military-industrial complex in America, it's not just aviation companies, it's not just Boeing or Lockheed Martin, it's not just Smith & Wesson. It's literally anyone in the world who makes something, they can be like, oh, well, what about killing people? Like, that's just a thing that happens in the US industrial complex because so much money is pumped into it. They lose trillions of dollars a year in this industry. And apparently a lot of this, when you look into it, is that these private firms are given these crashed craft and told backwards engineer it. And then those same firms can then sell that information back to the US government. So when people say, well, why don't we have all of this technology available? It's because that's not how capitalism works. So these companies like Lockheed Martin, who may be back engineering, I don't know, warp drives, they don't want to sell it all at once to the US government because they've got a good thing going on. So if they can just slowly drip this stuff to the US government in these black book projects, the people working on them won't realize what they're even working on. The people paying the money don't know what they're paying for. And then you've got a very small select amount of people within these large companies that are like very, very high up who know the reality of what's going on. So when they say, well, you need thousands of people to cover this up, you wouldn't really. You just need 3 or 4 people and that's it.
Well, yeah, it's just those people that dilute the information down. Like, you know, like in Batman, how he gets 10 different people to make a suit. So it doesn't look like one person's made. Yeah.
And when you actually look into it, the military industrial complex in America is insane. It's mad. AMF Bowling make nuclear launch pads. That's insane. So
I can't believe that.
Yeah, like look it up after the show. It's mad. Like just look at like military industrial complex America and you'll see so many companies that you recognize and the stuff that they do is mad.
It's like saying Krispy Kreme make helmets. It's like
totally, yeah.
Yeah, just it's two such jarring different things.
I know, it's mad. Now, Grusch has made a warning, basically, that why is it fair that a very small amount of private firms have this technology that is potentially world-changing, and all they do is just gain from it? That's all they do. They've got this stuff, they've got these craft, they've got these things, and yet there's like nothing coming back from it other than just a relentless grind of money. That's it. That's what these companies are in it for. Just
it's
money.
It has to be greed.
Yeah. And Grusch even says that there is an aspect of greed that is overriding the fact that this is world-changing stuff. Yeah. Prior to us moving on, what are your thoughts on AMF as a bowling company now?
I'm afraid to go bowling.
Imagine it. You get a specific score. You get like a 3, a 7, a 9, and a 4, and then all of a sudden just loads of alarms start going off, and all of the staff are running out.
It's like in Community where he's there, like he reads the Mexican food. It's like sounds delicious. Yes. You just get a certain score, opens up like a different door, and you're into like the
You just drop down, and there's just 3 aliens stood there, like we told you.
Told you, mate. Yeah, love your podcast.
Yeah.
It's you blow my mind every week, man. That's horrible to know.
Well, here's the thing: people say, "Well, how can all this money go missing?" There you go, prime example. Like AMF Bowling. Look into how much money AMF Bowling make through the military-industrial complex. That's why all their bowling alleys are still open. They don't make money but from bowling.
That's money laundering. That's practically just money laundering. Like getting your money to and feed it through a different business. And it's okay because they've got laser tag.
Maybe we need to do an episode one day where we look into the military-industrial complex.
No.
Because it's mad.
No. God, it's going to make me cry.
It's insane. It'll be like... Oh, here's an example. Military-industrial complex. The US government pays something like $3 billion a year to advertise within Call of Duty games. There you go. Yeah, there's been the highest ever uptick of army recruits since Call of Duty came out.
That's for kids.
Yeah.
Games for kids.
Yeah. So when we're talking about can they hide this stuff, do they have the money and the resource and the energy to do so? Yes, because you probably didn't know that AMF make nukes, and you probably didn't know that Roomba now make minefield detonation machines. So yeah, they can do.
Yeah. And Henry Hoover's make the drones.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they suck. That's my joke for the day. Now we're going to move on to the very last segment, but what I want to just very quickly do, James, I'm just going to send you a few pictures, but I don't want you to look at them just yet,
Okay.
I'll ask you to look at them just in a little bit, because the next part is the fact that Grusch has hinted basically that we're in a 90-year-long Cold War with China and with Russia, and possibly even other countries. He didn't mention any, but China and Russia are obviously the two big adversaries of America. And it's in the pursuit of NHI technology. And one of the reasons that the US government hasn't come forward is because if they do come forward and say, we've got these craft, blah, 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 and then they allude to the fact that they haven't advanced as much in that field as China or as Russia, then they're telling their adversaries, you have an advantage over us in terms of your military output. So if China think, well, America have this tech as well, and if we go over there with our gravity warp drive bombs, they will know that. And if America come out and be like, we've never figured this stuff out, they'll all be speaking Chinese in America quite soon. So there is genuine national security reasons why this stuff can't come out just as one government. It has to be a united humanity effort for this to come out. And anyone who thinks otherwise, you're mad, because America are never going to admit that they don't have the most up-to-date technology. Russia certainly wouldn't at the moment, and China wouldn't either. So it is very much like a game of chess where nobody wants to make the first move. They're just staring at the clock and hoping the other person moves the pawn first. Russia's made direct indications that China has a dedicated reverse engineering program, and the potential breakthroughs that may achieve accelerated disclosure is happening within the United States, but it's hidden by the fact that they are afraid that if they come out with, we only know how to do this, China and Russia, boom, you're gone. It's a real genuine threat. It's understandable. And then when people say, well, why isn't Grusch coming forward with evidence? He can't, because it's national security. And as we've seen with the kid who leaked the Ukraine documents on the Discord server, America take that very seriously. Donald Trump took nuclear codes and stored them in his bathroom at a semi-public golf resort. Potentially could spend 30 years in prison, hopefully, fingers crossed. But it's a genuine thing. He can't just go in to these programs and say, I'm going to take all of these boxes and I'm going to give them to a news station, because he's then compromising the safety of America.
Yeah, you don't know the ramifications, do you?
Yeah, he says it himself. He's a patriot to America. Nobody who's a patriot to America would want to give Russia or China a competitive edge in terms of their military output. So he can't just show proof and evidence. What he has to do is he has to come forward and do what he can do when Biden signed the whistleblower laws into place, and come out and he has to whistleblow. He can't show the evidence, because if he went onto that interview and said, here's a picture of Nixon shaking hands with an alien, he'd be in prison the next day. It's just, or he would have shot himself 5 times in the back of the head. That's the reality. So his implication is that all countries within this Cold War are engaging in a covert technological race that could directly impact global power dynamics, because if America break this and crack the code and they have limitless resources, then that changes the world overnight. So yes, it's heavy stuff that he's coming out with, but he can't back it up with direct proof through fear of imprisonment. I don't know if you saw it, James. A couple of days before the interview, Grusch actually went to a French publication and he spoke about an Italian craft that predates Roswell. So
I saw that on he took that on the interview, yeah.
Yes, so it's known as the Mussolini Bell. According to Grusch, the US government possesses a remarkable bell-like craft that was recovered from fascist leader Benito Mussolini in 1933 in northern Italy. Lou Elizondo has also confirmed that this is an event that supposedly happened. And actually there's signed documents from 1933 within the Ministry of Defense in Italy that claim this has happened, with even rudimentary drawings of what the craft looked like. And the Italian government have confirmed that these are legitimate documents. So we're back. I'm going to do a hard cut because, Zencastr just completely shit the bed. the Italian government have confirmed that these are legitimate documents. So they did see a Bell craft allegedly, and it was recovered allegedly, but then we don't really know what's happened after that. And Grusch has come out and said that basically the US government, alongside the Vatican and the Italian government, did work out a way of retrieving the craft from Italy and bringing it over to the United States. His claim is that the US does have that. Now, according to the internal documentation of this craft, there are said to be bodies in a state of preservation, and they resemble victims of a car crash. So like a heavy impact that these occupants were subjected to. Notably, they're described as tall, 7 feet, long blonde hair, spacious foreheads, clear blue eyes, small noses, and small chins. So basically, imagine the typical grey alien, but with a really bad wig on. That's what they look like. 7 feet
like Chris
tall.
Hemsworth in the first Thor.
Yes, exactly like that, but just more human looking. But yeah, that's apparently what they look like, is this sort of like long golden hair, silken, like, I think is the term. Like,
wow,
Like
beautiful.
Hulk Hogan. And Grusch showed a handwritten memo in Italian. Yeah, they're Hulk Hogan aliens. So Grusch showed a handwritten document with small crude drawings, and it's not proof, but it's evidence of an internal memo. One striking revelation, that's how I tried to make this as dramatic as possible. One of the biggest revelations is that the Vatican City has been involved apparently in a decades or potentially centuries long non-human intelligence cover-up. And Grusch has presented basically the evidence to say that this craft crashed in northern Italy. The Vatican are aware of it, and they helped bring it to America. And since then, those claims have sort of been backed up by Ross Coulthard, who did the interview, to say that he has been made aware of people requesting to go to the Vatican archives to look into UAP, non-human intelligence, alien life, and they've been flat out refused. Now, the reason that I'm talking about this is because I sent you some pictures a second ago, and I will link them to Twitter, and I'll put a link to our Twitter in the bio of this. And they are historic images within biblical scenes that seem to show alien, UAP, or UFO craft within them. I can see the colours changing on your screen now, so obviously you're having a look through them. And
you can see, like, and annoyingly, they are shaped like Bob said.
They're like teardrop shaped, lights from the sky.
I hope Jesus is an alien.
Amazing, wouldn't it be?
Wouldn't it just be?
But yeah, there is a direct link between the Catholic Church and Ross Coulthard and David Grusch saying that they are aware of non-human intelligence. I don't want to say aliens, because I don't think that it's aliens.
Non-human intelligence,
But there is something about these images that they show up all the time, like in the background of pictures of, I think it's Venus. I think it's a biblical painting of Venus. And there's like things floating in the air, and then people, and these aren't these are paintings. These are deliberate hand-painted works of art. And there's literally a guy stood in the background, a small painted man looking up and pointing at a flying object in the sky that looks exactly as UAP are described.
Yeah.
And if there is evidence that the Catholic Church has vast records that go back up to 1,000 years documenting evidence and testimony of NHI, UAP, UFO activity, and a way for them to show that is through art that is paid for by the Catholic Church, then I think that these paintings show something.
Something, yeah.
Because it's not like a bird, and this is hundreds of years before planes existed.
This isn't something that can be. They're not flares.
No, certainly not.
They're definitely not flares.
And I'm looking at a picture here of it's Jesus around a fire, and there is what can only be described as the mothership from Independence Day, with 4 separate beams of light shining down on them from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
We've got an image of a shining, upside down, typical UFO shape. It's the flat bottom and the curved top with beams of light coming off of it, and a man physically stood pointing at the object
with his dog.
And this is stuff, we've got photos of just, and there's another photo of almost exactly the same thing. It's a biblical woman with 2 cherubs, and in the background is a man staring at a flying object, and it's bizarre. That's weird.
That's the same picture, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the cherubs
hundreds of years. Yeah. These paintings are hundreds of years apart in some instances, showing the same phenomena.
And they're all interacting with the people. It's not like they're, they're all either there's lights hitting people in the head, or everyone's like pointing and stuff. And, even at the birth of, the crucifixion of Christ, there's just 2 spaceships in the sky having a good time.
Very strange. And so there seems to be a link between historic world governments and the hiding and suppressing of information relating to non-human intelligence. So when people say, well, it's a new fad, it's only been around since Roswell, clearly it hasn't, because the Mussolini bell predates Roswell by 14 years, and then you have literal paintings from biblical passages showing potentially non-human intelligence. It's a good place to leave it, I think, because it's probably a full hour discussion that we'll have on another episode. But that's weird, right?
I did not know this. Not that I knew anything, but I didn't realize how deep and old it went. Sorry, that's what she said. But that's horrific.
Well, it's one of the reasons that I didn't want you to look at the images straight away, because I knew that we were finishing the episode off with the Vatican. And, I'll be honest, probably the reason that this stuff hasn't come out of the Vatican is they've got such a litany of child sex offence cases that they're just clogging up their archives, that they just had to throw this stuff out to make more room for historic sex abuse.
Yeah, it's just the recycling.
Yeah. They have to, when you used to tape over things on your VHS, they probably just taped over all the UFO records with just, whoopsie, that priest has done it again. Oh, see, a little tinker.
That's it, yeah.
He's
we have the same episode of Teletubbies 5 times now, guys. Stop recording the same episodes. They could all watch the same TV. They don't need to watch different TVs.
Yeah. And so, I wanted to sort of end it with a bit of a freak out. And we've not even talked about the fact that David Grusch said that UAPs have killed people. We've not even talked about that. We talked about it last week, but we've jumped into so many things that have come out during this interview that UAPs potentially killing US servicemen isn't even on the top of our list. It's a wild one. I'll be honest, I'm a bit disappointed with the reaction, not just from mass media, but from people within the UAP scene who were expecting him to get a video out on his phone of him high-fiving an alien and running around on a spaceship.
Yeah, this is my friend. He's not going to bring an alien on TV, is he?
The people that are complaining that there's no proof clearly don't know how top secret and confidential information works. I've signed NDAs. I've done gaming reviews in the past. I've signed NDAs and timed disclosures, and I know that if I break that NDA or if I break that timing that I'm given, I'll likely never receive another review code again, and possibly face legal action.
It's a contract in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'll possibly face legal action for breaking those disclosures. So
that's a game review.
Yeah, imagine that is a game review for RimWorld was a game that I reviewed. No one's going to prison for RimWorld review embargoes being broken, but if I broke that embargo, there is the potential there that I could have risked potential action in court, class action courts. Imagine conflating that and scaling that up to potentially giving Russia or China a military advantage over you.
That was going to be my argument. If the culprit wars thing's true, he's going to be so careful with what he says, because he doesn't want, world-ending conflict. And that's where we are of the level of destruction that we have. It's world-ending. It's not city-ending or anything. It'll be gone in a flash.
And if anyone wants to sort of see what could possibly happen if Russia want to press the button, look up the size of the Tsar bomber that they launched in Siberia. Because they launched that thing 13,000 feet above the sky, and shockwaves were felt for 550 miles. So, yeah, it's genuine doomsday stuff.
Yeah.
And people are saying, well, why has he been given clearance by the DoD? Well, because he's a whistleblower, and legally he has to have protections. That's why they wrote these whistleblower protections in, to allow people to come forward with their claims, but on the caveat that they can't just steal evidence from the government to show off on YouTube podcasts.
I think a lot of people think that like you say, you just grab files from the office and ran. This guy has gone through the proper channels to do it officially and properly. And the people say that it's just in his age now. He left the army April 2023, 3 months ago. It's not like he left 10, 40, whatever, years ago. He left this year.
Yeah.
It's not like he's been
2 months ago.
hiding this information away. It's
the reason he left is because he went forward with this information that he's now telling the world. He took that information and the proof and the evidence that he had to Congress. He put it forward, and the response was that his job was impossible to do from that point on. And he was mocked and he was shamed. And it's basically a case of what's it called? Constructive dismissal, where his job has been made impossible, and he's had illegal reactions from within the US Intelligence Committee because he came forward with this information. So what I would say, Mick West, is if David Grusch wants advice on how to program in a McTwist into a skateboard game that he's working on, then that's when we need your expertise. But when it comes to the handling of top secret government documentation within the military industrial complex, I'm going to leave it with the person who worked in the military for 18 years, not the guy that sits on his floor bare feet making videos of lens flares to try and debunk UFO videos. I'm going to go with the military guy who's got like nearly 20 years of experience and is being backed up by the Attorney General of the Department of Defense. So, if anyone's making any skateboarding games, Mick West is your man. If anyone wants information on how to properly submit whistleblower complaints and under oath testify to Congress about UAP retrieval programs, go to David Grusch.
Oh, perfect. End it. So good.
Yeah. See you later, Mick. Love you lots.
F you, Mick.